a computer science teacher in Montgomery County Public Schools. She currently serves on the Educational Advisory Board for Responsibility.org. Dr. Eugenia Henry. She's the founder and president of H2O Clinical LLC, a company that performs data management and statistics for clinical trials. Currently, she serves as commissioner representing Baltimore County on the Maryland Commission of Women. Captain Jeffrey Klauber, a 24-year veteran with the Maryland State Police. He currently serves as the commander of the Criminal Intelligence Section and the deputy director of the Maryland Coordination and Analysis Center. Chan Park, director of Congressional Affairs for Microsoft Corporation and a former assistant United States attorney. Len Ku Ritzer has worked in the medical management field for 16 years at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital and several private practices. I would also like to acknowledge the contributions of the members who could not be here today. Chiling Tong is the president of the National Asian and Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship. She's the founding president of the International Leadership Foundation. Officer First Class Stella Du of the Howard County Police Department. Marcus Wong, co-founder of the Zytogen Global Genetics Institute and a member of the Maryland Healthcare Commission. And Professor Janelle Wong of the University of Maryland, College Park. Asian Americans across this country are under attack, physically and emotionally. The women and men who have had the courage to come forward and share their stories deserve to be heard. Just talking about these challenges and bringing them out in the open is so important. But we want the victims of these crimes to know we see you, we hear you, and we're here and we're standing with you. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Rob Herr.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Good morning, everyone. I am so grateful to Governor Hogan and the First Lady for focusing attention on the important issues of bias and violence against members of the Asian American communities in our nation. And I'm also so thankful for the opportunity to be part of the solution. As the Governor and the First Lady have made clear, attention to these issues is not enough. To make things better, to reduce ignorance and hate, we need concrete action that's informed by careful thought, analysis, and consideration of different perspectives. That was the charge that Governor Hogan gave to me and my fellow work group members to present concrete recommendations for him to consider. And the initial steps you'll hear about today are just the first fruits of the Governor's commitment to action. I have been privileged to work with and learn from the members of the work group. They brought invaluable experience and perspectives from academia, business, both large and small, education, the faith community, and law enforcement. I thank each and every one of them for their inspiring dedication to the task. Now, as a group, we've convened a dozen times since May to study and discuss different sets of potential recommendations and solutions. As the Governor asked, the work group leveraged our members' extensive range of expertise and developed recommendations in a wide span of subject matter areas, including data tracking anti-Asian bias incidents and crimes, education, law enforcement, outreach and media, grants, and the business community. The work group's recommendations served as a catalyst and a starting point for the Governor's actions today, and we are proud to have contributed to this process. After considering the work group's recommendations and consulting with his own advisors and policy team, the Governor decided upon the initial actions he's announcing today. Now, I emphasize initial actions because issues like this one require sustained effort and commitment to achieve real and lasting change. And I'm confident that the Governor and his team will continue to build on the momentum that we see here today. I also want to note that the work ahead is not just for government and our elected leaders. Government has an important role, of course, but it's on all of us to educate, inspire, discuss, and progress. I am particularly heartened by the work being done by nonprofit organizations, including the Asian American Foundation, which First Lady Hogan helps lead as a member of the Advisory Council, Stop AAPI Hate, and the Alliance for Asian American Justice, a pro bono initiative that provides free legal services for victims of anti-Asian hate. Support for and partnership with organizations like these is critical. Step by step, we will work together to make Maryland and our nation a safer, more tolerant, and more respectful place for all. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Governor Larry Hogan.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much, Rob. I want to sincerely thank you for serving as the chairman of the Asian American Hate Crimes Work Group and for really spearheading this important undertaking. I also want to thank two people who inspired this effort, my tough prosecutor daughter, Jamie, who was our MC this morning, and Maryland's First Lady, my wife, Yumi. It was actually Jamie's idea to create this work group to address the alarming rise of racist rhetoric, vitriol, and harassment against Asian Americans. And Maryland's First Lady has become a national and global voice, bravely and forcefully speaking out about the crisis. I'm proud of her passion, courage, and dedication. I also want to sincerely thank all of the members of the work group for agreeing to serve on this important mission at such a critical time. And this was a work group that really put in a lot of hard work and came up with some real suggestions for solutions. Nearly 1/3 of all Asian Americans say that they have experienced some type of discrimination since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic last year. In Maryland, hate crimes targeting Asian Americans have more than doubled since 2018, and they rose by 150% nationwide just last year. In April, I announced the creation of this Asian American Hate Crimes Work Group, which I believe is the first of its kind in the nation. And as chairman, just laid out, their hard work over the past 7 months has now culminated in a thorough set of recommendations to address the rise in anti-Asian activity, to prevent acts of violence, and to support victims and witnesses. Today we're announcing a series of immediate statewide actions to combat incidents of hate and bias against Asian Americans and to empower victims. These actions fall into three main categories: enhanced safety and enforcement measures, increased access to community resources, and additional tools for educators and students. First, to enhance enforcement efforts across the state, we're going to update hate and bias training for law enforcement agencies to include reporting procedures for incidents of hate and bias, as well as hate crimes. To encourage further cooperation between the Asian American community and law enforcement, we are designating a Maryland State Police commander to act as a liaison for hate crimes and racially biased incidents, and we're launching a partnership between the Maryland Coordination and Analysis Center and the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives to share data on these incidents. To promote diversity in the police force, we're encouraging law enforcement to prioritize recruiting that is commensurate with the population served and to offer incentives for recruits who speak multiple languages. To help police officers communicate more effectively with members of the Asian American community, we are also providing $1 million in new grant funding to the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth, and Victim Services to fund translation and app-enabled devices for law enforcement and victim services organizations. And we will be calling on Attorney General Garland and the U.S. Justice Department to issue clear guidance to the states on the federal COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. Our second series of actions will ramp up the community resources available to Asian Americans in Maryland. We will increase protecting against hate crimes funding from $3 million to $5 million. And we will direct the Governor's Commission on Asian Pacific American Affairs to conduct outreach and to aggressively publicize the availability of funds to members of the Asian American community. Because too many incidents continue to go unreported and unpunished, we're publishing a How to Report Hate Crimes and Incidents document, which will be available in Asian languages and which will be widely distributed to community members and posted online. We will also now utilize 211 Maryland for the reporting of hate and bias incidents, and we'll provide information about services and resources in Asian languages. Earlier this morning, we launched an integrated full-service website which links to dozens of critical national, state, and local resources, as well as a comprehensive collection of important information for the Asian American community. This is now available at governor.maryland.gov/resource center. We will also create a pilot program to develop alternative reporting channels for victims of hate or bias incidents, including community centers, nonprofits, and churches, with plans for statewide distribution at American Job Centers. The third set of actions we're announcing today will empower educators and students across the state to reach Asian American communities and encourage reporting to law enforcement. We are directing the Maryland Center for School Safety to develop new resources for educators, parents, and students on how to report and identify hate and bias incidents. We will provide education resources for teachers and members of the public, which will be available on the work group website. We're tasking the Maryland State Department of Education with developing continuing professional development course offerings for Maryland teachers on Asian American histories. And the Governor's Office will be working with our university system to explore potential scholarships and fellowships through the Merrill College of Journalism at the University of Maryland to encourage Asian American participation in journalism. Our Asian American community is facing challenges worse than they have seen in decades. The actions that we're announcing here today are the beginning. We will use every tool at our disposal to help provide additional protection to those who are impacted by these crimes. In closing, I want to again express my sincere appreciation to Robert Herr and all of the members of the Asian American Hate Crimes Work Group. And I'm calling on other leaders across the country in both the public and private sectors and across the political spectrum to use their voices to speak out clearly and forcefully to condemn attacks against our Asian American community. But words are not enough, which is why today we are turning those words into real action. Thank you, and with that, we'll be happy to take some questions.
Over the past couple of years of the pandemic and politics, consternation in the United States has seemed to really increase. Do you see this getting worse or better? You know, with the hate crimes and specifically the Asian one we're talking about now, do you see it getting worse or better, you know, as we go along?
Well, it certainly has gotten much worse over the past year or the past couple of years, and I guess the hope and the desire of all these folks that have been working so hard is that we can try to take some steps that will keep it from getting worse and hopefully make it better. Anybody else? Brad?
On infrastructure, are you ready for that yet? To talk about that?
Let's just wait and see if anybody has on-topic questions for either Chairman Herr or myself on this topic, and then I'll be happy to come back to you on infrastructure.
How widespread a problem did you see? I mean, you said you heard from individuals who.
Maybe we'll let Rob?
What is the reality of what's going on across the state?
Well, there are a number of different aspects to getting an accurate sense of how bad the problem is. The first is to take a look at the data nationwide. And if you look at that, numerous sources, including official law enforcement statistics, Survey data of the Asian American communities across the nation have seen a very significant increase in the number of hate crimes and hate-based incidents since 2019. And so nationally, there is certainly an increase. And then if you narrow the scope down to Maryland, we've also seen a similar increase if you look at the data between 2019 to 2020. Now, the data so far for 2021 are still incomplete. If you look at the trajectory, we look to be on a trajectory for a slight decrease for this year. It depends on how the data for the rest of the year pan out. But the data from 2019 to 2020 show a significant increase within the state of Maryland. Now, naturally, a lot of that is going to be focused within your particular parts of the state where there are more, where it's more of a critical mass, a significant size of an AAPI community, including Howard County and Montgomery County. That's really where the incidents, according to the statistics that are kept by Maryland State Police, are focused. But it's a problem. And so looking at it in terms of the statistics is one lens to look at it through, but also anecdotally. In today's day and age, cell phone videos capture things that decades ago we could not have seen. And so we have seen, since the beginning of the pandemic, very, very powerful video of victims, oftentimes elderly, in broad daylight, being attacked brutally and senselessly. That is part of the reality that we live in today, and it's also part of the way that we all perceive these issues, and part of why the work group members behind me, we were so passionate in responding to the governor's call to help him figure out solutions to this problem.
Any other questions? Go to you, Brad.
All right. Well, bluntly put, what's Maryland going to get and what you're going to do with it on the infrastructure money?
Well, first of all, as you know, I have been, this is something we've been focused on for a long time. Not only past 7 years that we've been making progress on infrastructure here in the state, but in 2019, when I became chairman of the National Governors Association, I started a chair's initiative on rebuilding America's infrastructure. We came up with a set of recommendations agreed to by all 50 governors, which we submitted to both the former and the current president and the former and current Secretary of Transportation. Almost all of that is included in this current infrastructure bill. As you know, I hosted a summit here in April where we brought together Democratic and Republican governors, senators, and congressmen and really crafted and arrived at the size and scope of this bill. It truly is a bipartisan bill on something that people have been talking about fixing for decades, and I was happy to be a part of it. And I'll be at the White House later for the bill signing. This was not Republicans versus Democrats. This was about something critically important to the nation that we came together on and got done, that passed overwhelmingly with 69 votes in the Senate. And we were happy to have the president on board. We were happy to get Republicans and Democrats in both the House and the Senate to work together, which doesn't rarely ever happen. I think it's going to mean a lot, not just for Maryland, but for the rest of the country. It's going to help us put more investment into roads and bridges and tunnels, into ports and airports, and into broadband and into cyber security defenses and a lot of things that we push for. It includes things like public-private partnerships that we've been championing. We have the largest P3 transit project in North America under construction. We've approved the largest P3 highway project in the country. Really very happy to be, moving forward on this. We believe it potentially, we don't have all the final numbers on timing and how much, but we believe it's going to mean about $6 billion to the state of Maryland, and it will enable us to, we've already invested tons in both roads and bridges and tunnels, and but this is going to help us get to some of the projects that we had not yet been able to do, and or help us move at a faster pace than we had planned to do. So we're very pleased.
So what will Maryland receive first?
They're going to continue to see, massive increases in our transportation infrastructure, and they're going to see us, be able to finish out the final remaining broadband across the state so that every single person is going to have access to high-speed internet. But for us, we're already moving forward on the Howard Street Tunnel, doubling the production of the port by double stacking trains. We've already dredged the depths to 50 feet. We were with the president last week there talking about some of the successes we've had. We're going to continue to build roads. We're going to continue to invest in transit, and we're going to move, put a lot of people to work and turn the economy around.
Governor Hogan, Baltimore City's on the brink of hitting 300 homicides this year.
Well, it's, I've been very focused on this problem for 7 years, and from afar here in Annapolis, tried to do everything we possibly can to fix the problem, but it really is going to take some immediate action by the leaders in Baltimore to try to address the problem. The basic problem, as we've discussed, is that we're not arresting enough people, we're not prosecuting them, and we're not taking them off the streets. And so we have repeatedly, over and over again, introduced legislation to try to do something about that. 2 years in a row, we passed it to the Senate, and the House failed to act. We've continually tried to press the leaders in Baltimore City to take more action. We've invested money from the state. We've sent state resources in to assist, and we still have a problem of a prosecutor that doesn't want to prosecute crime, and repeat violent offenders continuing to shoot people over and over again on the streets of Baltimore. And so I don't know that that's going to get solved by the weekend. I mean, they are going to go over 300 murders. We see it every single week. It was just tragic this past week. We had an off-duty police officer who, had to fire his gun after people came and started shooting up the barbershop. We had a Catholic priest in Little Italy walking down the street in the middle of broad daylight and was assaulted. We've got to get to the bottom of this violent crime. It's not happening in the rest of the state. It's happening in Baltimore City. And the leaders of Baltimore City are going to have to take some responsibility. And we're going to continue to try to assist them in every way we can. Anybody else? Thank you all. I'm sorry.
I have a question about the case of counterfeiting of the governor's citation. So the state police in charge of the investigating this case is waiting for the office statement from the governor office, but they are still waiting. So what's the progress?
I'm sorry, you're talking about the governor's citations? The counterfeit governor's citations? Yeah. I don't really have an update on it. I don't know the status of that. For those of you unfamiliar, there were, some people that were copying governor's citations and handing them out to members of the Asian community. They weren't real. It's certainly something I think that our office is looking into it, but I don't have any update on that status. We're happy to provide governor citations repeatedly for people that do good things in the community. And, it's really a ceremonial thing to recognize good, hard work. Like the members of this work group probably all deserve governor citations to thank them for their efforts. But I'm not sure who was printing the fake governor citations or why, but it's a problem. Yeah, I don't know any more details about that. Yeah. Thank you.